Welcome in, everybody, to a Tuesday night edition of Philly Guy Speaks. Joe Quill's here with you. Hope everybody's having a great week out there. I'm a better week this week than I had last week. I'll tell you about that in a second. Uh, it is election day. Hope you got out there to vote, or if you take advantage of the system, you mail your vote in because I like to have fun with my ballot from time to time. And I had a rare November funny, and I'll get to that as well. Also, we got some weekend happenings, Breeders' Cup. I was in a handicapping contest this weekend. I'll tell you about that. If you follow me on Twitter, you know how I did, but you know, give you some thoughts on the whole weekend. Eagles thoughts, MLB managerial changes, a little bit of a shocker there, and anything else that comes up. So had to play Cher there to start the show. For those that are hearing it on the audio side, those on the video side, sorry, I cut it out because I had to. But anyways, Cher had that song, I think, in the 90s. And let me just double check that as I'm talking to you here. That song is from 1989. So that is 34 years ago. So basically, that's a song from so long ago that I believe that song was banned, or that video that I played tonight. I believe that video was banned by MTV. I'm just double checking that here. Music video. Yeah, I don't see. I believe that video was banned on MTV, or was restricted that you could only have it after a certain time. And the reason for that was because of the butt cheek showing. Now, we didn't see full crack. We didn't see nips or anything like that. But, 1989 was such a different time from what it is now. You could be talking about wet ass and stuff like that. I think I can get away with ass because I'm going to be talking about the big ass fans, Dirt Mile. Little added story to that as well. But I believe that video was a banned or restricted video on MTV because of how risque it was for 1989, where, oh, you're showing ass cheeks and we can see the tattoos. And I mean, the tattoos aren't the thing, aren't the problem, but you're seeing ass cheeks and fishnets or whatever that see-through material is. But I thought it was a funny thing to play, since it is the first show in standard time since the clocks went back. And I was sitting here Monday morning, and I was like, hey, Cher, if I could turn back time. And I ran into this joke here, and I even told it at work, and allegedly the people at work liked my joke. And I said on there, maybe I didn't say it on Facebook. Yeah, I did. Just curious, is Cher happy that we turn back time an hour every November? I mean, we did find a way. I mean, that's the stuff that you find on my Facebook, on my Twitter, and also my Instagram. My Instagram and Twitter are both Joe Quills. My alternate Twitter is Philly Guy Speaks. That's the show podcast, or that's the podcast Twitter. And I usually post the links there, just share it onto my regular one. So thought that would be a fitting opening for tonight's show. And, I'm back to my jovial self for the most part. Um, Now, I did not have a show on Thursday. I did promise Breeders' Cup and everything else. And um, I do have to tell you one thing, you know, and even I joke around once in a while about mental health. I was telling a friend last night that Carson Wentz, who got signed today by the LA Rams, I said he went totally soft on us when the Eagles drafted Jalen Hurts. And I said, I mean, that wasn't a mental health thing. That was just being a crybaby because the Eagles drafted somebody, and also because he was not that great of a person in the clubhouse, allegedly. So, um, but yeah, I mean, I was not mentally in it at all. I mean, I don't know how I worked Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I don't know how I picked four winners in the Breeders' Cup. I don't know how. And I'm going to play one of those races later on because um, I wish I had the full NBC feed because a bunch of handicapping analysts and handicapping professionals turned into a bunch of giddy little boys. I'll tell you about that in a second, but and I did as well with my dad. But um, I will tell you one thing, and I've shared my story of my anxiety and depression and all that, and you know, I don't. I mean, if I will call a bullshit artist, and if you have 930, you're a winner. Congratulations. Um, I will tell you this. I will call out a BS artist if I know that somebody is really faking it. Like, for example, Ben Simmons a couple of years ago, because there is something specific in the collective bargaining agreement that says if a player claims that he's having mental health issues, he still gets paid because it's a temporary disability or whatever they say in the collective bargaining agreement. Um, I'll tell you one thing. And first of all, never suicidal, so don't even go there with that. Um, I'm the type of person where I may be totally screwed in the head, but I'm never going to be like that. At least I don't think I'm going to be like that because I enjoy being too much of a pain in the butt to everybody out there. So um, there was so much going on with work, with personal issues that I won't get into because, um, at least not on here. A couple of my close friends do know about this. Some of my close friends don't know about it only because I just didn't get a chance to tell them because we were talking football on Sunday, and I was feeling so much better on Sunday compared to Thursday and Friday. And I will tell you guys one thing. This podcast and this stream is a way for me to unwind after work. It's the same as if I was taking the L home from work, if I was in the office. I have my earphones on. The music, the podcast, whatever I'm listening to, it helps me wind down a little bit. And the one thing I will say to you guys is not only is mental health not a joke, even though I will call out people that are BS artists, kind of like I'll call BS artists for every little thing. You also have to know if you can't get a hold of anybody. And I tell you guys, talk to somebody, what doesn't matter who it is. I'll tell you this. Always have a way that you can calm yourself down. And I know I was not in a good place on Thursday. And the fact that I could not do my show on Thursday night because of everything that was going on, it was a lot. Now, to me, it's a lot. To you, it'd be like, doesn't seem like that much. And what one person thinks is this big of an issue is that small of an issue. And for those that didn't see the video and are listening on the podcast, I spread my hands apart vertically, the video from the very top to the very bottom, and then I went as close as I can without touching my hands. So that gives you an idea for those that are watching or listening after the fact on the podcast. So I will say this, and I said it before, and I said it a couple of weeks ago when I was having these gray moments, as Jake Glaser calls them, when he talks about when he's on his podcast, Unbreakable, I think it's called. Just search Jake Glaser, Glazer. That'll help you. It's a good podcast. I haven't got into it yet. I do catch a podcast here and there because Dan Patrick shares his podcast every once in a while. So I did what I had to do to everybody to help me, like the mechanisms that I can do for myself that can get me closer to being normal, with finger quotes. And everybody has their own way of getting themselves back to normal. Some people talk to friends or other family members or anything like that, and sometimes you just have to talk to somebody, and sometimes you end up having to calm yourself down yourself. And now it wasn't, I still had all my mental faculties and all that. So, but I do apologize that there was no show on Thursday because, and now I said it a couple of weeks ago as well. It was a major, I mean, it's a big thing if I don't do a show. Now, if I call out sick from work, that's an automatic cancellation for me. I'll tell you that right now. But I wasn't sick. I'm just sitting there taking calls Thursday and Friday, and I was like, stop with the screaming, stop with this, stop with that, leave me alone for 5 minutes. Little things that annoy you. Like, it's just like after a while, those little things become big things. And it's like, so I can tell you it is a real thing. And I'm not the type of person that's going to take things just, I'm not the type of person that is going to cancel on you just for the sake of canceling. If there's a cancellation, there's a reason for it. I may have called out sick from work. They know I do a podcast and a stream. So if I'm sick, I got to cancel because, the way that I think the company can be, they say, oh, Joe's sick, but he's still doing his podcast and thing. No. We got to report this to HR. And especially with as much time as I have in a company, I can't afford to lose everything I've built up with pension and everything else. But there are, like I said a couple of weeks ago, there's going to be days where I'm going to have to take a night off because of everything that's going on. And I got hit with something Thursday morning. Now, it wasn't, no, I mean, it wasn't like finding out a friend passed away a month prior to that text, um, but it wasn't warranting an immediate um, sabbatical, so to speak, like a mental vacation, something like that. It was just, I need to take this Thursday off. I can't do it tonight. I can't deal with people. You know, I need to do it for the sake of everybody. So it wasn't anything done to, it wasn't done on purpose. Well, it was done, I had a reason for it, but, um, it was, and, I created a show. And like I said, because I was thinking about talking to, I was saying how I was thinking about taking a couple of weeks off. I said, don't, if I do, you know why. Um, but I talked to a different friend from what I talked to over the weekend, and I told them that, after I did a show, I sat on the rocker for 2.5 hours, and I did nothing. I mean, literally nothing. I just sat there, and it was like all the things went away. And sometimes you have to do with different things. Sometimes you got to listen to music. Sometimes you gotta vent. Sometimes you gotta do this. Sometimes you gotta do that. Sometimes you gotta sit on the rocker like I did. Whatever you have to do to make yourself a more calm person, do it. So, but I'm fine for the most part now. I should say for the most part, because I do joke around that I am screwed in the head. I'm naturally effed in the head. So, but do apologize for the Thursday show, and I do apologize to Gerald Contreras because um, I was planning on hopping on his show on Friday, but things really got screwy for me, and I was just like, I can't do it. So it wasn't done on purpose. So I do apologize for that, and hopefully you understand that every once in a while something like that will happen. Um, and I encourage any of you all out there that you know don't be afraid to take a step back, um, even if it is for one day. You know, it's better to look out after yourself. Um, you know, when things aren't right, time out, fix it. Um, so I am back tonight. Did go through the weekend okay, and let's get to it here. So I did write 2 articles for Bleacher Brothers this weekend, and I didn't want to. I was going to write another one, but um, with work, I just didn't do it. First of all, I wrote 2 articles. I wrote one, which is basically a synopsis of the Breeders' Cup. Wade Barrio won the Breeders' Cup Classic, won by a length over Dermasoto Gake, who was my pick for the Kentucky Derby. My pick, which was Saudi Crown, never got the lead. Got into the stretch and had nothing left. I think that horse is a 1.25 mile horse. It's just that um, with the speed in the race and everything that was going on, he just couldn't handle it. And also, speed did not hold at Santa Anita on the dirt track at all. I don't think a front runner won the entire 2 days, even the non-Breeders' Cup races on Friday and Saturday. I don't know what it was on Sunday, the closing day of that meet. I don't know what that was. So, um, yeah, so I wrote a whole article, and I wrote 2 articles back to back. I mean, I talked about Wade Barrio, boom, 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 boom. Or no, I talked about all the different races, but I purposely left out the dirt mile because I wrote a big piece on that because the Cody's Wish story is such a nice story um, compared to what we see in horse racing. This horse broke down. I mean, like for example, Go Rocket Ride broke down in training in the week leading up to the race, and he got put down um, last Wednesday, I think it was. Um, I think there was one horse that was vanned off, and I don't think that horse was that injured, but with the way that everything is now with HISA, um, the Horse Integrity something and Safety Act or something like that, with them and everything else that's going on, you do have all different things going on. So, um, but the Cody's Wish story is such a cool story. The kid wants to go to a farm in Kentucky so he can see horses. And there may be a little bit more to that, but it's a Make-A-Wish story. And there is this yearling. He's walking around the farm. You know, I don't know if he's out in the farm and whatever, or somebody has him and walking him along the path or whatever, but he sees Cody. And he has or I should say had, because I'll give you a follow up on Cody in a moment. Cody Dorman is his name. Um, he okay, according to this story here, and I'm going to get to the full story of what I'm reading this from. Um, the foal, because he was the foal was about 6 months at the time. Cody Dorman first met Cody's Wish, then an unnamed foal at Godolphin's Gainsborough Farm in Kentucky, while visiting the farm during a Keeneland Make-A-Wish Day in the fall of 2018. The foal approached Dorman of his own accord and laid his head on the boy's lap in his wheelchair. To the marvel of many, the horse would maintain that gentle disposition and bond with the teenager every time they encountered one another in the coming years, despite growing to adulthood and becoming a strong-willed top-level racehorse. So, but it's such a beautiful story that played out over, especially the last 2 years, because Cody's Wish did hold on to win the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, which was all the Breeders' Cup races were at Santa Anita this year, and he nosed out National Treasure, who was the Preakness winner, trained by Bob Baffert. And I walked away from the TV, and I was watching the NBC/USA/Peacock feed. I think I was watching it through Peacock because the way my cable system is, because I have an HD box, it processes and gets to my TV slower than it would be if it was over the internet. So I think I was watching it that way. And I see a couple of minutes later, oh, there's an inquiry in the race. I'm like, oh no. And then I see the top two horses. I'm like, oh. So I pull up Twin Spires quickly, and I'm like, no, this can't be the ending it's going to be, because we all know everything that Baffert's done, especially over the last couple of years. 5 positives, being banned from Churchill Downs, being banned for another year because Churchill Downs felt like, well, we punished him for 2 years. He doesn't get it. We're going to give him another year. And the thing is, because Churchill Downs is a private entity, they can ban you for farting on a jockey if they really wanted to. Oh, you farted on Florent Giroux? Well, F you, you're gone. Something like, I mean, they could see that I'm wearing a Middle Tennessee State t-shirt like I'm wearing tonight and say, you're gone. Because it's a private business, they can do whatever they want with that land. It isn't like it's a government entity, even though you do have the state, state stewards and other things like that. But the property itself is owned by Churchill Downs, and they are allowed to say, you're allowed in, you're not. But we know everything that's going on with Baffert over the last couple of years, all the overages for in the drug tests and things like that. So I'm thinking Baffert's going to ruin this, ain't he? And I wrote this article, and I was saying how Santa Anita is 25 miles to the west of Hollywood. I think I said that, go 25 miles east and it's Hollywood, but you get the idea. So you go to the west, 25 miles from Hollywood, you get to Santa Anita, and and the story that you had was, the whole story with the horse laying his head on Cody's lap, and how the horse was such a was so calm around Cody and everything like that. It was fitting that he did win the race by that much. And I quickly pulled up and those listening, I'm not crying over this. It's just my throat. I don't have anything to drink either. So, but he won by about that much. So the stewards did not deem that there was a reason to take Cody Swish down. So Cody Swish was upheld in first, and was declared the winner, became official, blah, blah, blah. So, and I said, because Santa Anita is so close to Hollywood, we got the Hollywood ending we wanted. We got Cody Swish to win that race. And, and I'm not worried about the fact that Cody Swish was 3-5 or 4-5 or whatever it was. I'm there to pick winners, and he thankfully Cody Swish did win in his final race before going to stud. And he's going to be at Gainsborough Farm from what I read today. It's a if your mare wants to get impregnated by Cody Swish, it's $75,000 right now. And that's how they, it's two ways that you make money. You either make money on the track or you make money through the breeding shed. So, but good thing that Cody got to see his horse win one final race before he was retired. And unfortunately with it came bad news. And I woke up to this on Monday or yesterday. Monday. I'll say Monday, since you may be listening to this on the podcast on Wednesday. And unfortunately, Cody Dorman passed away Sunday on their travels home after the Breeders' Cup. He passed away Sunday shortly after watching trackside at Santa Anita as his best friend scored a second consecutive victory in the Breeders' Cup mile. Now Dorman, he had Wolff-Hirschhorn syndrome, a rare genetic disorder. Patients typically do not live beyond early childhood. For the most part, they said you don't usually survive more than 2 years with this. And he was 17 years old, so he outlasted those projections on average by 15 years. And he got to see his horse win not once but twice in the big race for his division. And it's almost like he hung in long enough to see his horse win one final time on Saturday. Um, his parents, Kelly and Leslie Dorman, said in a statement issued Monday via Godolphin that we are heartbroken to share the news that our beloved Cody suffered a medical event on our trip home to Kentucky yesterday, and he has passed away. On Saturday, Cody watched his best friend Cody's Wish display his usual perseverance and toughness in winning a second Breeders' Cup. Those are the same characteristics Cody had showed time and time again for the 18 years we were blessed to have him. Dan Pride, the chief operating officer of Godolphin in Godolphin, USA, said, over the past 5 years, Godolphin family has been very fortunate to have met and become friends with the Dorman family, Cody, his parents, Kelly and Leslie, and his sister, Kylie. The heartfelt story has touched the hearts of many in and outside of the thoroughbred industry. And while Cody's passing has saddened us, we find comfort in knowing that Cody found many joyous moments during this journey with his best friend, Cody's Wish. Our hearts are with the Dorman family. And Kelly Dorman said Saturday after in a post-race press conference, in a lot of ways, I think that horse probably saved Cody's life. I know him and his horse have made a lot of lives, and the horse have made a lot of lives better. Bill Mott, the trainer of the horse, said it was great for him while he lasted. It made his life better. In lieu of flowers, the Dorman family asked that you make a donation to Make-A-Wish's Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana chapter. So it's almost like that the horse that Cody hung around just for long enough for his last race, and we don't know the medical situation here, the medical episode. And truthfully, let the family keep it to themselves. That's why HIPAA laws are there. But, it was a very heartwarming story. And I said on Twitter, I wish this race was in prime time as opposed to a race that went off at 2:30 Eastern, 11:30 Eastern time, 11:30 a.m. Pacific time, because a story like that deserved a prime time ending. It's just that we had it at earlier in the day. I got to look into this camera because I'm a little fuzzy right now. I don't know why. But, it's a, he lived a full life for 17 years. And, he made a friend that gave him memories of a lifetime. And it's great. It's a great story that came about because of this. And, with overages and everything that you hear, horses breaking down, you had a story that was worthy of a Hollywood ending, and we got that Hollywood ending. So rest in peace, Cody, and condolences to the family and everybody out there associated with Cody Dorman and Cody's Wish, and everyone who fell in love with that story. And hopefully it is a movie that eventually happens. One moment, let me fix this here for you. Okay, so I think I fixed the issue with the video. It was looking real fuzzy to me. So if you're watching the video, I'm not fixing the video. Screw it. And so I mentioned this last Tuesday. I mentioned it to Gerald Contreras. Um, I play on a website called Sporty Kings, and it is an updated version of the old public handicapper website. And what they do is they have handicapping contests. They have a summer tournament or tournaments that start in like April and they go to November. And you do also have a race of the day contest that's every week. You got monthly contests, the April through October. It may even be March. They have they do have a weekend where they pick 3 races and you got to pick the winner and you get points for your horse finishing first and second. Like for example, if my horse paid $26, he gets 20. You get if he pays $26, you get 26 points. So they take each month the top 50 people who are registered for the NHC tournament. Um, anybody in the top 50 got into the tournament, got into this final tournament to get one of the 2 seats that are being offered for the national tournament, which is in Vegas, I believe in February or maybe March now. I think they changed it because the Super Bowl being back another week and all that other stuff. Um, so um, I'm sitting here on Tuesday before Breeders' Cup. Matter of fact, it was Tuesday before I started really getting into the swing of things um, to get everything ready to go for the show. And I get an email alert. Sporty Kings. Congratulations, you qualified. I'm like, because I ended up in about 120th place or something like that for October. I finished 104th place, but I think what happened was there was a lot of people who qualified who ended up getting into already in there. So, okay, so let's say the top 25 were all already qualified. So they would have to go down to 75. I finished in 102nd place in October, or 104th at $53.92. Now, and I know, first of all, you're saying 92 cents. I thought they pay like 9.20, 6.20 in New York. In Canada, they pay 6.30, but in Kentucky, they pay penny to the dollar. So you're going to get a race where you get paid $7.93, for example. So I finished up in 104th place. So there was a minimum 50 people who were already qualified for this final tournament because each month is a qualifier tourney and you get to the big tourney. So, so I ended up 104th, but I got this email, you qualified. I'm like, all right. So I'm in. Hopefully I don't get an email back saying, oh, we screwed up, you're not in. See you in December or whatever. So I was like, oh man. So I was like, oh, cool. So I have another reason to get into the Breeders' Cup this weekend, despite everything that's going on away from here, away from work and all that. So I'm like, I really got to study up. So, and the rules were plain and simple. You can pick up until post time your horses. I put them all in on Friday, and I figure, okay, well, if I have a horse scratch with which one of them did, I ended up having to change things around. And so I ended up I wasn't doing that great. Everything I had that won was a winner, and I had 3 winners in a row. So I did have a hat trick technically. So then all of a sudden, and so the distaff ran. I didn't get anything there. So I'm like, all right, got 2 races. I'm not even on the website. So I'm like, I'm not even near them. So I'm not going to win. Then I'm going to show you this race, and you're going to hear it here. This is from NBC, which you'll hear. God, what's his name? Larry Colmus. There we go. So Larry Colmus, he has to call this race, and I'm going to play this because I want to make sure that they're pronouncing this name the way that they're saying it. But even after the race, they were, and you can see why they acted. Everybody acted like a little kid. He, no balls, no balls, no balls. Even though it's spelled Nobals with 1 L to get around the jockey club to get the horse's name in there. So, it's the turf sprint. It's a 5 furlong race. So it's only about a 55-second race here. And here you go.
They're off in the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. Living the Dream bounces out quickly. Roses for Deborah, Jasper Crone, Beer Can Man, and Motorious all right there early on. Then it's No Balls, Caravel, and down on the inside, Big Invasion. Arzak is next on the far outside. Gear Jockey bottled up in traffic there. Inside of Aesop's Fables, Tony Ann is the trailer, and Living the Dream makes the front. Heads into the far turn on top a length and a half. Jasper Crone rank in second. Caravel gets a dream trip through on the inside in third. On the far outside, Arzak is getting going. 3 wide around that turn. Then Beer Can Man, Roses for Deborah, and No Balls. And they're into the stretch, and it's Living the Dream. Coming into the final furlong in front. No Balls is rallying up the rail. Arzak is there on the outside. Big Invasion is getting going. No Balls has taken the lead. Big Invasion into second. Here's the wire. No Balls in the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. Big Invasion was second. Aesop's Fables was third.
I had the microphone off, so let me give myself one of those. So that means I got extra work tonight. So anyways, I don't know what I was saying at the end about Sport of Kings other than if you they have weekly day of the week tourneys, which is basically one race at Daily Race Form picks as the race of the day, and that's how you play that contest. And I imagine December they're going to have another monthly tournament. I think that's how they do it. But who knows? We'll see what happens with that. So, now let's get back to the Eagles here because I noticed that my microphone was off, and the Eagles did get to 8-1 with a 28-23 win over Dallas. Fairly clean game. I mean, except for maybe penalties, but there was only 1 turnover in the game. It was the very last play of the game. Because when I saw the replay, I was like, I mean, it doesn't matter, but CeeDee Lamb fumbled the ball and Blankenship got it. And I was even talking with my manager yesterday, and he said, were there any turnovers in game? I was like, no, but, there were a couple of fumbles that were recovered by the team that fumbled. But then I said, oh, there was one fumble. And then I looked it up after the fact. And I was like, where is it? I was like, oh, the last play. But it was a fairly clean game in terms of turnovers. Um, I mean, this is exactly what Fox wanted when this was the America's Game of the Week. Two teams that do not like each other, blood rivals. Well, it's become more of a blood rivalry because the Giants haven't done anything in a while, the Commanders haven't done anything in a while. So I guess we're now the de facto arch rival of the Dallas Cowboys because for years they would be you would ask Dallas fans who's the bigger rival, Philly or Washington. They would tell you Washington probably. But um, but the Eagles did go to 8-1. Dallas Goedert has a broken arm. He's going to be out a month. About so I haven't seen if he's already put on the IR because if he is, take advantage of the bye week, and then you only have 3 more weeks to worry about. But the playoff dreams that we had almost turned to nightmares as Jalen Hurts got hit in the knee late in the first half, his left knee that he's having issues with. And I don't think even though it was a hit that was below the knee a little bit, with all the bodies that are around everything, it wasn't done on purpose. So, in the letter of the law, it would have been a penalty, but in the spirit of the game, if there weren't bodies around, it wasn't done on purpose. But everything did turn out okay. Hurts did come back, and he, when he was just on his hands and knees like that, I was like, oh no. And I'm watching here by myself, by my computer desk, my work computer desk, because I have a desk that's next to it that I move around, and I'm like, oh no. So, but thankfully, he came back in the second half, led the Eagles to 2 touchdowns, and then to the 28-23 win. Um, Guys were getting hurt left and right on the final drive. It's like, oh my God. But they did hold on for the win. And Eagles go into the bye week 8-1, best record in the NFC. NFC, for the most part, is pretty wide open. It's just that you do have San Francisco, who had lost 3 in a row before their bye week. You got Dallas, you got Detroit. You got 3 or 4 teams that can give the Eagles a challenge in January if they meet up. But I feel like you don't. But I feel like this is the Eagles to lose again, and we know what the crowd is like. I mean, it's not a slight on Citizens Bank Park, but it's Philly's Red October times 100, only because you have more people in the link than you would at Citizens Bank Park. But we saw it last year, and I think if the Eagles get home field again, it will be another. It will be another interesting playoff run for the Eagles next January, or this January, I should say. So, but the Eagles do have a tough schedule coming out of the bye week. And ESPN is loving the fact that the Eagles and the Chiefs are playing on Monday Night Football. And you got a Super Bowl rematch. And who knows, a potential preview of this year's Super Bowl. Who knows? But either way, you got a great matchup here. And Kansas City, their offense isn't, I mean, I mean, we can say that the Eagles haven't been clicking on all cylinders all year, but they're still 8-1, and that's how scary this Eagles team is. It's like they haven't put a complete game out there, but they're still 8-1. Um, but I'm going to share my screen here for you so you can see the schedule here for the rest of the year. And I'm going to zoom this a little bit for you. Let's go back down here. So there you see the schedule for the remainder of the regular season. You come back from the bye week and you have Kansas City. And then you play the Sunday after Thanksgiving, a Sunday primetime game with Buffalo. Then the following week, San Francisco comes in. And then you had the return match with Dallas. And then you go to Seattle. So you do have 5 tough games in a row. Depending where everybody else is, if the Eagles go 3-2 there, they're home free to the number 1 seed, in my opinion. Now, granted, we thought that last year. Then Jalen Hurts got hurt. He hurt his shoulder last year on a play in Chicago. And, next thing you know, week 18, you have to play the starters against the New York Giants. So, so when you listen to that, hopefully when you listen to that statement, I'll say it again. The emphasis is on should, because things can change so quickly, as you know. I mean, week 1, non-contact injury to Aaron Rodgers, blows out his Achilles. Let's see. A couple of weeks ago, Kirk Cousins blows out his Achilles. He's done. Cam Akers last week blows out his Achilles. He's done. Danny Dimes last week in Vegas blew out his knee in a non-contact way. He's done for the year. And the way football is, one injury, your season could be over. Even if you're 13-1, 14-1, something happens, and oh, by the way, all of a sudden, you got Marcus Mariota starting. And, I think being in the offense will help him, and having weapons upon weapons, which he never really had at Tennessee or in Atlanta. And of course, some people say, Joe, he had this guy and this guy and this guy at Tennessee. He sucks. But you do have you got a lot more weapons here than he had originally in Tennessee, in my opinion. And we know definitely more than Atlanta last year. So, my opinion is the Eagles go 3-2 here in some way. They should be fine. Now, the Kansas City game is interesting because the Eagles hardly ever lose after the bye week. And so do Andy Reid teams. So it's interesting that both teams got the bye week this week to prepare, 2 weeks to prepare for that game. Buffalo doesn't really impress me that much. And I would not be surprised if the Eagles just blew them right out of the building with the Kelly Greens on. So, and that's a Kelly Green game, so that's why I mention it. San Francisco, is Brock Purdy finally coming back to earth? Or is it because he hasn't had all his weapons at running back, at wide receiver, whatever? Could it be that? Could it be him? Could it be that he's finally been figured out? Who knows? But, San Francisco fans have been whining like a bitch because, both our quarterbacks got hurt and blah, blah, blah. Oh, well, should have had 3 quarterbacks dressed for the game. And that's one thing I don't understand because, you could have dressed 3 quarterbacks. It's just that nobody chose to do so because of the fact that they wanted as many special, what's the word I'm looking for? um, running backs, wide receivers, special teamers. You know, they didn't deem a third quarterback necessary. They would rather have an extra cornerback or an extra linebacker. So you get the idea. And whatever that word is, oh well, I'm not gonna try to think over it while I'm talking, but it'll probably come to me in like 10 minutes from now, and I'll be like, oh, by the way. Um, and then you get a very soft ending. I mean, diarrhea soft here. Giants here on Christmas Day. I will not be surprised if the Eagles are favored by 20 here. Because I think I saw that, and I am going to see here, because I'm going to pull up the scores there, because that'll have the lines. Dallas is favored by 16.5 with an over-under of 38.5. So basically that's telling you that Dallas is going to win about 30-12 or something like that. Whatever 39 figures out to, but yeah, it's going to be ugly in Dallas, and unfortunately for Fox, they end up with that game. Wouldn't be surprised if they went to Seattle instead, but they're going to show their Cowboys. Dallas, that's probably going to be a loss, but if the Eagles win that, that probably sets them up well. And Seattle, I'm not sold on Geno Smith. And it's not because of getting totally destroyed by Baltimore. A lot of teams have done that in Baltimore, NFC teams, that is. So, but you got the Giants, you got Arizona, and you got Arizona again. And I think the Eagles will try to round the score on New Year's Eve because of the fact that is Jonathan Gannon coming back. And I think that Nick Sirianni has a message to send to him. And don't be surprised if the Eagles put 60 or 70 on the board. I think they're really going to try to run up the score in Arizona after everything that Jonathan Gannon did, and allegedly taking the job before he was in there, and costing us the Super Bowl. And even though I blame the players and everything else, but it looks like it could be you get through those 5 weeks, you go 3-2, I think you're home free. But like I said, it should be that you're home free, because you never know what can happen in the NFL. Somebody gets hurt, and the next thing you know, you're starting the rookie because your backup also gets hurt. But you get the idea. But just if you're going to make a statement like that, especially with me on a podcast and stream like this, always be careful with what you say, because people will use it against you. And I had a guy at work, oh, you jinxed Andy Reid and you got him fired. I said, no. And this is just a regular conversation he and I had. I said, first of all, what would it take to fire Andy Reid? A 4-12 season, 5-11, 3-13. No way I was predicting that the Eagles would go 4-12 the year he got fired. But I'm very, very interested in seeing how this goes, and hopefully Jalen Hurts stays healthy. Hopefully the knee heals up while he's on the bye week and getting treatment and whatever he has to do. And we will see what happens with the Eagles in the upcoming weeks. And hopefully that Eagles game will be one where the neighbors are going to be like, oh, God, he won't shut up screaming and all that. But yeah, so we'll see what happens with that. And got a weekend of Red Zone to watch next weekend. So Eagles are 8-1. Look to be in complete control of their division. I'm in control in fantasy. I'm 8-1 now. barely won when I was like a 30-point favorite. But that's the way things are in fantasy. So one last thing I do want to mention here. And there were 3 hires, managerial hires this week, all yesterday, as a matter of fact. Let me find the first one here. Because there were 2. There was the one that I'm going to talk on. There's one that I'm going to mention here because it really got into my crawl. There were 3 hires yesterday. Carlos Mendoza goes from Yankee bench coach across town to the Mets to be their next manager. That should be a good move. I don't know much about Carlos Mendoza, but given that the Phillies manager, Rob Thompson, was the Yankees' previous bench coach, hopefully for Carlos Mendoza's sake, it is a good move for him, even though it's the Mets. Don't want them to win. Thought there was 3 moves yesterday. The Mets. And I apologize for Stephen Vogt. Now, I've been hearing all good things about Stephen Vogt. He was a leader in the clubhouse even when he was a player, so he should have no problem transitioning, even though he goes from a bench coach he was actually a bullpen and quality control coach for the Seattle Mariners. He basically had an entry-level job, but he's shown with the different teams that he's with that he is a leader and he can lead everybody there. So they did hire him there, and I think that's going to be a good move, and we'll see. I think that this isn't necessarily a guy who's going to be totally let's put a young guy in and we'll just do analytics. I think Stephen Vogt has a way of creating solidarity among his players especially once the season starts, once he knows who his 26 guys are. But we'll see what he does there. And the move that was the shocker to me, and I have to give Chicago Cubs management one of those. Because of the fact, and this is what the Phillies did to Gabe Kapler a couple years ago on steroids. The Cubs hired Craig Counsell, and right before that, they told I'm saying Bob Ross here. I don't know why I'm thinking that. David Ross. They fired David Ross just so that Craig Counsell could go to the Cubs. And the move makes sense in Craig Counsell's personal life because he's in the Midwest, living in the Midwest. His kids are in the Big Ten Conference. And, it was speculation he would go to the Mets because his guy became the player, whatever title he has. So it made sense. And mind you, he couldn't do anything until November 1st because his managerial contract ran through Halloween. Now, if Milwaukee made it to a World Series, obviously it would just carry over for a couple of days. So I don't know what happened where he just said, I'm just going to be a managerial free agent, but and maybe I find it in this article here that I found. But they fired David Ross, hired Craig Counsell. Counsell's essentially a free agent because he has no contract to go back to in Milwaukee. The Cubs swept in as soon as the contract with Milwaukee ran out on October 31st, signing him to a 5-year, $40 million deal. President of Baseball Operations Jed Hoyer said, it just felt like an exceptionally hard decision, but one that I feel like I had to make if the opportunity was there. My job is to figure out how to win as many games as we can in the short term and long term. And there was nothing about this move that I felt like didn't meet that criteria. So David Ross had an 83 win team, got the Cubs in the playoff contention, and got canned. Now, granted, the Cubs did not make. They had to win 1 or 2 games. They didn't do it. But now, does David Ross end up in Milwaukee? I mean, that's the open job now, Milwaukee. So who knows? Maybe he goes there. If Milwaukee likes David Ross. I mean, almost be like it was a trade, even though there was no trade involved. But in a way, even though I understand it, it's upgrading, and even I've said it a couple of times. You know, if like I said when Joe Maddon was let loose from Tampa Bay, or he actually opted out of his contract to go to the LA Angels. One thing I said was that day, fire whoever's the manager at the time. I don't remember who it was. I don't think it was Kapler. But whoever it was, I said, fire him, hire Joe Maddon now. Because I think that his analytics could have helped the Phillies, even though the Phillies weren't big on analytics. I think Joe could have did his own thing until the analytics department really got up and running. But you know, analytics only get you so far. You know, you got to go with gut decisions. And sometimes those gut decisions work in your favor and sometimes they don't. Sometimes analytics goes in your favor and sometimes it don't. It's just that you don't account for the human element with analytics, in my opinion. But you do have a guy who was all of a sudden shit canned because of the fact that a better option was available, at least according to Hoyer. And I was sitting there, and the next thing I know, actually, I'm watching Intentional Talk. And the reason why I'm watching is because Sierra Santos is on there, and I got a major crush for her. But I see the bottom of the screen. It's like Counsell gets 5-year deal with the Cubs, and it didn't click the first couple of times it went on the scroll on the bottom of the screen. I'm like, oh, he went to the Cubs. Because I'm figuring, oh, he's just going to go to the Mets and blah, blah, blah. Here he went to the Cubs. And it makes sense because he gets to stay in the Midwest. He's not far. His home is not far from Chicago, probably right across the border from Illinois into Wisconsin. But I feel bad for David Ross only because I'm a firm believer. If you're going to fire somebody, fire them. Don't string them along just like the Phillies did with Gabe Kapler, even though Gabe Kapler deserved to be fired after that second year. It's just that after a while, if you're not going to get fired in those first few days, you start getting ready for the new season. And, you know, I mean, I don't know. I haven't even looked to see who's going to take over, or who's rumored to take over in Milwaukee. But, you know, and the thing is, Craig Counsell, he was essentially a free agent. And he went to a team that wanted him, and they essentially fired David Ross just because we want to upgrade the managerial role. So now, of course, you don't know what he's going to do or what Council's going to do, because he could have said, hey, let's work out a new deal. And you know, he was there 9 years. And, you know, and he was there as a player and as a front office guy. So I think he was there like 16 or 17 years. But it just sucks for David Ross, no matter what you feel of him, if you're a Cubs fan or you're not. I just think it's horrible that he got strung along for a month and then all of a sudden, wham, you're gone. And it's all part of the game. Even as a player, you think you're doing a good job, and it's like, oh, go back to the minors. Oh, we're cutting you. We've got a younger guy here. He's coming up, you're gone. But yeah, I wish that they didn't string David Ross along, and probably they weren't thinking of stringing him along. So you're probably, I mean, and you can hit me up at Joe Quills, and you can say, hey, Joe, they weren't stringing him along. It just feels like that. That's what I was saying. It feels like he was strung along. And, you know, and also comment below on YouTube as well, because this will be up there as well. So, but yeah, I do feel bad for David Ross. So, and I did see as well, Aaron Nola right now, from what is rumored, wants 7 years, $210 million. Goodbye. 7 years will put him at about 38. I probably would go no more than 4 years. But, you know, but then again, 30 million, if you think about it, even though I think with the way that these TV contracts have imploded with Bally Sports, for example, and Fox Sports, those regional networks, good on them for selling those things, because they got out just in time. I wouldn't be surprised, and I've been saying this for a while now, kind of like I've been saying the Jacksonville Jaguars are the team to watch in the AFC. And hopefully, when February comes around and it's Eagles and Jaguars, I could say, I told you so. Also, I lost my train of thought now. Yeah. Oh, I know what it was. I was talking about Bally Sports. Don't be surprised if salaries take a major hit and these franchises take major hits, because that money that they were thinking is coming in just implodes the salaries in general, because, you know, ticket sales are going up, tickets prices are going up. I mean, even getting a hat is expensive as hell. You name it. Concessions are expensive as hell. If Bally Sports imploded, what's to say that NBC Sports Philadelphia, Bay Area, what's left of those NBC Sports regional sports networks. The regional sports network thing is imploding. And before you know it, you're going to see those salaries implode because the money that you're paying, that they're paying these teams for these regional sports networks aren't going to be there because the regional sports network thing isn't going to be around because people have cut the cord. And especially in Philadelphia because NBC Sports Philadelphia is not available on DirecTV, on Dish Network. I don't think it's available too much. I mean, but there are ways around. You have IPTV stuff as well, but I would not be surprised if something happens where those salaries do plummet. I mean, I'm all for making money, whether it's owners, players, whatever, even game day staff. But I sense that something like that is coming. And I may be totally wrong. But if Bally imploded, if Bally Sports imploded, there's going to be more of that in the future years. So, but that's just me, and hopefully I'm wrong. So, so that is going to be it for now. Quick episode tonight. Glad to be back with you guys, and hopefully we will get everything ready for Thursday. I'll have picks for the weekend, and maybe we'll get some winners out there for you guys to play. Or if you want to fade my picks, if you think they're going to lose, feel free, because they are free picks. And, you know, I have fun with it. And I have fun doing this. And, you know, when it's not fun, I'm going to have to take a step away. And I did last week. And hopefully I don't do that again for a long time. But anyways, do want to thank all of you for taking the time to download the podcast, listen wherever it is. Now, I do know that there have been issues with other podcasts with Apple, Spotify, and others. Now, I don't know what the source of it is. Now, I wonder if it's Lisbon, which I don't use. But then again, I think Jason Bean uses Lisbon, and he doesn't have any issues with his podcast. I upload through Spreaker. So if you're watching this as opposed to listening on the podcast and you tell me, you know, something's up with the podcast, I'll work on it. So, but until then, do want to thank everybody who has taken the time to listen, watch, download, whatever. I do appreciate each and every one of you. And once again, I apologize for last Thursday. And I'll be back this Thursday at 9:15. And we'll go from there. So hope everybody had a great election day here in the United States. You know, I know the strip clubs were closed because all the strippers like to work the polls. But anyways, do want to thank you all for joining me. And I'll catch you Thursday night, 9:15 Eastern, right here on nofilter.net. And check out bleacherbrothers.com. Find those 2 articles I wrote. I think I'm going to write one this weekend. I think I'm going to start a new series this weekend. We'll see what happens. So have a great night, everybody. And you've been listening and watching to Philly Guy Speaks here on No Filter, part of the Bleacher Brothers Sports Network. Good night, everybody.